All right, here we are. It's time for another edition of Jonesing for Football as we look back at the 2021 National Football League draft. Bill Jones with young Cody Winstead. I'm in Dallas. Cody's in Philadelphia. Cody, of course, with the NFL Network. He's finally recovered from a week-long NFL draft assignment for him. And I am sort of recovering as well. But Cody, this is the podcast I'm most looking forward to because we are digging deep into the draft and we've got some gems to talk about over the next few minutes, don't we?
No doubt about it. Some day three sleepers, some guys that could make an impact as early as this season. And I don't know about you, Bill Jones, but I've been digging pretty deep. I went through all the picks in day three and tried to match up players with teams and open slots and guys who will have some chance to really make some plays this year, hopefully. And I'm looking forward to it.
And in day three, it's maybe the plays aren't all made this year. Maybe a lot of times day three, you're looking at developmental guys, but these are the guys that have the right stuff. I'd look at them as the best and the brightest. If I had more time in the day, I think I could find a few more. And you've got your own five. I've got 5 or 6 that I'm going to take a look at. But this right here is why I do the Big Green NFL Draft Scouting Notebook. It's you have to study the first rounders, the second rounders, the third rounders, but it's those guys, the Rex Burkheads that you find in round 6 that are going to play for a decade in the league. Those guys that have what it takes. These are guys, Cody, that if they came and interviewed for a job at the NFL Network or for me, CBS 11 in Dallas, you want to hire these guys, but they also have the football ability to be able to play for a decade in the National Football League. It's not going to be a Hall of Fame career for these guys, but these are guys that it appears have what it takes to be able to fill a role and be not just a serviceable member of the team, but players that can have primary roles. Maybe it might be a core special teams guy. Maybe it's a guy that is your captain of your special teams eventually for a decade in the league. That type of player.
Churning the bottom of the roster, right, Bill Jones? That's always important. And these guys are important pieces of that.
All right. I'm going to start with a guy that should not have been drafted in the 4th round. He should have been drafted in the 3rd round, in my opinion, by the Dallas Cowboys here. I'm going to start with Jabril Cox because he kind of sets as far as unplayability and what I've gathered about him off the field and even in his background going back to high school. I think Jabril Cox might be the best pick the Cowboys made, especially where they got him with the 115th pick. But this is a guy, as you're familiar with, he finished up his career at LSU and had a terrific season. How about this? He transfers from the FCS multiple-time national champion program at North Dakota State. And it appeared once the pandemic was hitting, especially, what a wise decision this was because they only played 1 game last year. But he gets on campus at LSU, and in no time at all, he is named a team captain for the defending national champion LSU Tigers going into last season. So he's a team captain, and his production on the field he's a sort of a space linebacker with the Cowboys. He'll play like a strong side linebacker position. He'd be great in the sub package as a linebacker. He had 3 picks. He had 8 passes defended in 10 games. He had 6.5 tackles for loss for LSU going back to his time at North Dakota State. He was the Missouri Valley Conference Defensive Player of the Year his sophomore season, first team All-American his junior season, freshman All-American in 2017, 48 starts throughout his college career. But even when you go back to high school and you look at Jabril Cox growing up in Kansas City, he was a dual threat quarterback at his high school in Kansas City, passed for 2,000 yards in one season, and rushed for 1,000 yards in that season. He was an all-conference cornerback as a sophomore, all-conference quarterback as a junior. He played quarterback, wide receiver, linebacker, safety, and cornerback. There you go. There you go. Jabril Cox is my first guy. He's going to make it in this league, and he's going to play 8 to 10 years at a position, assuming he stays healthy, at a position that is very important.
What doesn't he do? He plays every position.
That's right.
Love that.
Try to match that.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I got my work cut out for me. My first guy, Bill Jones, Amon-Ra St. Brown from the Lions. Out of USC, guy is talented. I think he's going to take advantage of the opportunity there in Detroit. They lost Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones in free agency. So there will be plenty of targets to go around. He can play on the outside or in the slot. I actually saw some plays of him playing running back and jet sweeps and stuff like that. So he's Mr. Versatile on offense, coming off a great 2020 season, led the Pac-12 in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. His work ethic, Bill Jones, special. Trained by his father, a 2-time Mr. Universe winner. St. Brown and his 2 brothers had unique upbringings. They all had 4.0 GPAs or better in high school and spoke fluent English, German, and French during their childhood. And that includes his oldest brother, Equinemius. He's entering his 4th season with the Packers. He's already in the league. So keep an eye on Amon-Ra St. Brown, named after the Egyptian sun god and the sky god. Interesting dude. I think he's going to have a really nice rookie year.
Wow. And he was a 5-star recruit coming out of Modern Day High School in Anaheim, California as well. Had a nice college career. I know the Cowboys were interested in Amon-Ra St. Brown, probably because Mike McCarthy also drafted his brother Equinemius in the 6th round a couple of years ago. I love that one. Very good. All right, I got one for you here. How about also in the 4th round, the Minnesota Vikings select running back Kene Nwangwu out of Iowa State and Frisco Heritage High School right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Let me tell you about Kene Nwangwu, who was in a crowded backfield situation at Iowa State. Of course, early on in his career, David Montgomery was their featured back. I mean, he also battled some injury issues. I think he had an Achilles injury that cost him his freshman season, and he had a shoulder injury his 3rd year there. He finally got an opportunity his last year there to play a little bit at running back. But I think what Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer are looking at with Nwangwu as a 4th round pick is he's going to be one of those core special teams guys. He's got freak athleticism. All right, here you go on Kene Nwangwu. You've heard of the relative athletic score, the RAS?
Sure.
Have you heard of that? Going back to 1987, when they look at the combine participants. Of course, we didn't have a combine this year. They've got they've done the research on all the running backs. Well, they do every position in the league, but all the running backs since 1987 coming into the NFL draft. Kene Nwangwu's relative athletic score, it's 9.89 out of a 10.0. He ranks 18th out of 1,490 running backs who have been tested in the last 35 years. He's number 18 out of nearly 1,500 running backs. All right, he's 6 foot, 210 pounds. He had 22 bench reps, a 38 vertical, a 10.5 broad jump, a 6.83 cone drill. Okay, get this. He ran a 4.32. Okay, the 10-yard split. What's the fastest 10-yard split you have ever heard of?
I don't even know.
I mean, 150, 150 is really fast. I have seen some that have gotten below 150, but it is very, very rare.
Okay.
This guy, Kene's 10-yard split was 145. 1.45 10-yard split. All right. You talk about academics, 3.7 GPA, mechanical engineering degree for Kene Nwangu. In high school, he won the state championship in the high jump with a 6'10" high jump. He was a 24-foot long jumper as well. And when you look at all of the NFL draft prospects this year who long jumped in high school, he is number one on the list, just ahead of Jamar Chase, who was just slightly under. He's right around 24 feet as well. How is he going to be used by the Vikings? Like I say, I think he'll be a core special teams guy. He's got terrific explosion, quickness as a third down back or whatever. But and as a kickoff returner, punt returner, he's going to make an impact. But he's one of the best and the brightest. It's Kene Nwangu out of Iowa State.
Cool, very cool. My next one, Bill Jones, Trey Smith, offensive lineman, selected in the 6th round by the Chiefs, came out of Tennessee, was a really good player there, started 41 games. He's been first team all SEC the past 2 seasons. Also a terrific person and student, won the Jason Witten Collegiate Man of the Year Award. I know that rings a bell for you. He's also an honor roll student. And the reason he slipped is most people think it has to do with blood clotting issues he had in 2018. But he's played every game since then. So 2019 and 2020, he's played in every game. And if you listen to Smith talk, there are multiple NFL players who are also currently playing with the same condition, David Andrews and Russell Okung. So blood clotting issues, but it doesn't seem like it should prevent him from having a nice long career in the league. He joins the Chiefs, and if you remember, they couldn't block the Bucs at all in the Super Bowl. So they're trying to revamp their offensive line. They traded for Orlando Brown. They signed Joe Thuney. They signed Kyle Long in free agency. And so I'm not sure if Smith is going to be a starter this season unless there's an injury.
What about Creed Humphrey too?
Yeah, exactly.
They drafted Creed Humphrey, who's going to walk in and start for him.
Right. So I'm not sure if Smith is going to play or start this season, but I know if he gets an opportunity, he'll bring a lot to a team. They asked him, what do you provide NFL teams when you're drafted? I loved his answer. He said, I'm a tone setter. And so that shows you his mindset right there. I think the Chiefs found themselves a good one in Trey Smith.
I think the Los Angeles Rams found themselves a good one in the 4th round in defensive tackle Bobby Brown III out of Texas A&M. Another one of our local products here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex out of Lamar High School in Arlington. By the way, the same high school that produced Shane Buechele, who signed with the Kansas City Chiefs as an undrafted free agent. But Bobby Brown III, this is one of the things that I look for in these players. You mentioned the Jason Witten Collegiate Man of the Year Award. Jason Witten, when he was drafted by the Cowboys, he was only 20 years old. Trying to think of some other. I think Juju Smith-Schuster was a 20-year-old coming out. Daniil Hunter with the Minnesota Vikings was a 20-year-old coming out. Things have worked out pretty well for him. Sometimes it can be a problem, a maturity issue for a 20-year-old coming out. But other times, I look at that as an indicator, especially one for a 20-year-old who's already completed 3 years. Tyron Smith is a classic example.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, right up there at the top. All right. I mean, Tyron just now turned 30. He's been in the league forever, and he's just turned 30 years old.
Did he block for Emmitt Smith?
Yeah,
almost.
But I think it's a great indicator of the stage not being too big for a player when they can, at the major college level, especially at a Power 5 school, be able to play and start from the time they walk on campus until, now here, Bobby Brown III is like that. All right. So he doesn't turn 21 until August. He's 6'4", 321 pounds. 321 pounds. His 10-yard split was a 1.68. Now that's getting it for a guy that's the size of a nose tackle.
Wow.
A 33 vertical at 321 pounds, a 9.5 broad jump as well. He at A&M, he came on strong his third year there. He in 9 games, 8 starts last year for A&M. He had 5.5 sacks. From an interior defensive line position, you're getting 5 to the quarterback 5.5 times in the college game with the quick passing game and so forth. I think that's impressive. He's got 34.5-inch arms, 10.5-inch hands. What the Rams have to envision with Bobby Brown III is that he is their next Michael Brockers. And if you go look at Michael Brockers when he came out of LSU as a first-round draft pick in 2012, I know because the Cowboys could have had him with the 14th pick. The Rams took him with the 14th pick. The Cowboys traded up from 14, gave up a second round, moved up to number 6, and got Mo Claiborne. How'd that turn out? Well, the Rams trade down to 14, pick up an extra second, and they get Michael Brockers, who plays for a decade for them at a very high level. Yep. But Brockers was 6'5", 322, which is about the same height and weight as Bobby Brown III. 35-inch arms, just like Brown. And the other numbers, the athletic traits are virtually the same. But the other thing I like about Bobby Brown, when you look at his interview, you can see the gleam in his eye, his personality and so forth. He is going to walk in there and he is going to be a guy who he has that alpha personality, he has a very likable personality too. He's going to be a great locker room guy, and he seems to have the work ethic and so forth. I think he's got a chance to really make it in this league. He's a guy that I was hoping that the Cowboys would pick, but they had too many other needs as well.
Sure. All right. I'm going with a 6th round offensive lineman, Bill Jones. Stone Forsythe. He was picked by Seattle, one of the Seahawks' 3 draft picks. They used one on the tackle from Florida. Big boy, 6'8", 307 pounds, elite pass blocker, allowed only 2 sacks on over 500 pass blocking snaps last season. Then that's against SEC D lines. And, they've got some good SEC defensive linemen down there. And he only allowed 2 sacks on over 500 pass blocking snaps. So pretty impressive there. He does need to improve the run blocking. He admitted that. I listened to a couple interviews. He said, I got to work on my run blocking a little bit. They didn't do a ton of ground and pound at Florida with
when you're 6 feet 8 inches tall, it's hard to get down there and run block, isn't it?
That's probably, I would imagine. Seattle is an interesting spot for him because they're trying to fix their O-line issues. Russell Wilson said, I'm frustrated at getting hit too much. So if you're the front office, okay, we got to figure this out in a hurry. And we got to upgrade this offensive line. And Stone Forsythe is part of that. Right now on the depth chart, there are a couple guys ahead of him, Brandon Shell, Cedric Ogbuehi, but they're not great players. I'm not sure Stone's going to start right away. But again, if he gets an opportunity, I think he's got a chance to get some early run. Some draft analysts, Bill Jones, had him as a 2nd or 3rd rounder. The Seahawks got him in the 6th. Good value for a good SEC tackle.
You know what? If Russell Wilson wants the Seahawks to improve their offensive line, they may want to start drafting offensive linemen before the 6th round.
Maybe. That's probably a good start as well. Yes.
Okay. They do have Dwayne Brown at left tackle, who they traded for, who was a 1st-round draft pick.
Yep.
But their left guard, Phil Haynes, 4th-round pick. The center was the 2nd-round pick. Damian Lewis was the 3rd-round pick, the right guard, and Brandon Shell, who they signed as a free agent, was a 5th-round pick of the Jets. They've been trying to shore up that offensive line for a decade.
That's true. And they tried to revamp them last year, and then it didn't still work very well. But again, hopefully Stone can come in and make an impact.
All right, here's another pick in the 4th round that the Vikings hit on. Cameron Brown, cornerback from Cal. I love this guy. I was tipped off to him After the Cowboys missed on their cornerbacks in the first round, after J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain went 8 and 9 on Thursday night into the wee hours of the morning, I went back to my cornerback board and tried to figure out how can the Cowboys find, is there a 6 foot tall third or fourth round prospect that they could, or two that they could draft where they don't have to spend a second round pick on a cornerback. As it turned out, they picked Kelvin Joseph in the second round. But I love Cam Bynum. A friend of mine who's a baseball coach in California tipped me off to him. He was a 2-time team captain at Cal, 6 foot, quarter inch tall, 196 pounds. In the rain, he ran a 4.5. He may wind up converting to safety, but with a 4.5 40. But a 10.9 broad jump, 6.98 cone drill. So he's got the athleticism there. He went to Cal out of high school. His first year at Cal, he starts, and he was a starter every single game of his college career at Cal. He started 42 straight games. That's another thing I look for. You go to a Power 5 school and the stage isn't too big for you as a freshman, true freshman. You go in there and you're a starter immediately. And also it says a lot about that he wasn't hurt. He played every single game. What sticks out the most about him, though, and I liked his tape as well. He's a competitive guy on the field. This is a guy who is as good a person as you will find in this draft. I mean, and his personality, I mean, you can tell that he's got this infectious, positive spirit about him that you want to have on your team. In high school, he also, as a quarterback, he has ball skills. He was a wide receiver in high school as well, on a very good high school team that went 27-4 when he was there. Losing in the state championship game twice to the powerhouse De La Salle High School in California. But Cam Bynum of Cal, who's going to Minnesota as a 4th round pick, he's a guy I'm going to be keeping an eye on throughout his career because I think he would have looked good in a Cowboy uniform.
All right. From one Cam to another, Cam Sample, 4th round pick of the Bengals out of Tulane. I really like this dude. Heck of an athlete. 6'3", 267. He ran a 4.59 40-yard dash, jumped 37 vertical, and had 23 reps of 225. This is interesting, Bill Jones. While doing some research, Pro Football Focus rated him as the Pro Football Focus rated him as the most valuable defensive lineman in 2020. So when he was on the field, the defense was good. When he was off the field, the defense was not so good there at Tulane. And his stock really started to rise after a tremendous performance at the Senior Bowl when he was named the American team's outstanding defensive lineman for the week. He goes to the Bengals, a team that's desperate for pass rushers. Since he had a league low 17 sacks last season, which is actually the second fewest in a season by any team in the last 10 years. And so they bring in Cam Sample. They also drafted your boy, your guy, Joseph Osai from Texas in the 3rd round. And they also signed former Saint Trey Hendrickson in free agency to address these problems on the defensive line. I think Cam Sample is going to be able to play this season and make a big impact this season.
It's pretty amazing. Tulane had 2 defensive ends who were drafted in this draft, Cam Sample and who was it? Patrick Johnson, is that his name? Who I got to find him back here. I just was looking at him.
Let's scroll through the big green notebook.
I'm going through the big green notebook. You know, I've got him listed with the linebackers, so it throws me off, but actually he's an edge rusher. Patrick Johnson was a 7th round draft pick of Philadelphia, in your neck of the woods there.
Love it.
So, all right, I love that. Cam Sample. I'm going to give you an edge rusher from Florida State. Speaking of a school that had 2 edge rushers who were mid-round draft picks, as it turns out, Joshua Kendo went to Kansas City late in the 4th round. But the one that I liked especially was Janarius Robinson, okay, from Florida State. When you look at him, academic, all conference, very well-spoken guy. He had 20 and a half tackles for loss in his career at Florida State, just 8 sacks in his career. But think about Florida State over the last few years. Do you think they were playing from ahead in a lot of games, or they've been playing from behind?
A lot of running from the opposing offense.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Janarius Robinson, 6'5" and 3/8, 263 pounds, with 35 and a quarter inch arms, 11-inch hands, a wingspan of 86 and a quarter inches. Ran a 4.69 with a 1.64 split, 25 bench reps, 34 vertical. Okay. He compares to my guy, Daniil Hunter, very favorably. He's a much the same size as Hunter. And who does Daniil Hunter play for?
The Minnesota Vikings.
Who drafted Janarius Robinson? The Minnesota Vikings. You know what I have just realized? The Vikings had 3 4th-round draft picks.
And they're all on your list here.
I just listed 3 4th-round Vikings draft picks. I was doing the drafting for Rick Spielman, or he was looking inside the big green NFL draft scouting notebook, apparently. One of the things I loved about Robinson when I looked at him, and he was one of the late guys that I looked at. It was actually after the draft had started, I found him. Looking at his tape, you know, in this edge rush class, I didn't see a lot of defensive ends who could really bend and, you know, come off the edge with a hand on the ground and bend around a left tackle. And I saw this with Janarius Robinson. That's what intrigued me when I saw that bend that he had. And then his personal story. He grew up on the Florida Gulf Coast. He lost his home. This was during the football season in 2018, I believe. Hurricane Michael came through. And I believe, I don't have his hometown written down here, but it's around Sunrise, Florida. Hurricane Michael comes through, and he and his family, they lost their home. It was blown away in the hurricane. There's a great piece that you can find on YouTube that was done. It might have been, ESPN might have done the story of her game day. And it shows him and his mom at his house where there's just nothing there. It was a very touching story. Yeah. But for him to come back from that and just hearing his interviews from that, there's a maturity about him. He's kind of a quiet, soft-spoken guy, but he was a captain on the team. And I don't know, Janarius Robinson is a guy that I'm going to keep an eye on because he's got the physical traits. And I think he is a guy that has that inner something that allows him to overcome adversity and really be successful. I think I'm keeping an eye on him.
Very cool. Very cool. My last one, Bill Jones, is Michael Carter II, safety selected by the Jets in the 5th round. Now,
not to be confused.
Not to be confused with Michael Carter that they selected in the 4th round. The 4th round guy is a running back. The 5th round guy is a DB from Duke. So the Jets selected 2 guys named Michael Carter. I'm taking Michael Carter II. They
just hope they play like Michael Carter, the Olympic shot putter who played for the San Francisco 49ers and played very well.
I thought you were going to say Michael Carter Williams, the basketball player.
There you go. There's another one.
We'll avoid that. First of all, Carter II, again, the defensive back, very experienced, over 2,500 snaps for the Blue Devils, saw time at slot corner and outside corner and free safety, Bill Jones. He can play anywhere you need in that secondary. Started 36 of 46 career games. He's coming off a season where he was 3rd team All-ACC, a semifinalist for the William V. Campbell Award, which I know you're familiar with. That
Having won it back in the day. Yes, I am very familiar. I've got it back on my shelves back here.
I highly doubt that. Anyway, so it combines academic success, football performance, and exemplary leadership. So a nice award there. And so this is the kind of guy you're getting with Carter, a team captain, someone who's going to make sure the team is all pulling in the same direction. And oh yeah, I should probably mention this. He ran a 4.32 at the pro day. So he's a burner. It'll be interesting to see what Robert Saleh, Jets' new head coach, a defensive-minded guy, does with Carter, because that Jets secondary has a lot of options. There's a lot of guys back there, but no real big names. And so maybe Michael Carter II is the Jets' next Jamal Adams.
I was just looking up how many Duke football players have made it in the National Football League.
Daniel Jones in the same city.
That's right. Daniel Jones, and then Jamison Crowder.
In the same city.
Exactly. on the same team.
Yep.
Ross Cockrell is another one. Prior to that, it gets kind of thin on Duke football players who have made it in the NFL. I'm trying to find a recognizable name going back in time. And they have a Robert Parrish, but it's not the same Robert Parrish who played for the Celtics.
Not the
Chief. Rod Stewart in 1966. Mike Curtis. There you go. Mike Curtis, the great linebacker of the Baltimore Colts, was a first-round draft pick, 14th overall in 1966. And then the fan ran out on the field and Mike Curtis clotheslined him. So there's the greatest player in Duke football history. All right, I'm going to close it out with this guy. Wow, this guy, I say the best for last year. This is a great sleeper in this draft. 6th round pick of what team? The New York Jets. Yes. The New York Jets come up with a 6th round sleeper who's going to make it in this league out of the University of Arkansas. Jonathan Marshall. Okay. He played nose tackle at Arkansas. I think he might be a 3 technique. Well, are the Jets still running a 3-4? So wherever you line him up.
Yeah. Next to Quinnen Williams.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to figure out how did Jonathan Marshall last until the 6th round? And now he's a little older. Like I mentioned, Bobby Brown III earlier, who's only 20 years old, turns 21 in August. Well, Marshall turns 24 in September. So he's 3 years older than Brown. And he also has arms that are 3 inches shorter than Brown's. So there you go. Brown, I'm getting the negatives out of the way first.
Yeah, I think you figured out why he lasted until the 6th round.
All right. So he's got 32.25 inch arms. And so that probably, these teams, they think that length is everything. Okay. And it is important in some respects. But anyway, 6'3", 310 pounds. Jonathan Marshall ran a 4.81. Okay. 167 split. 36 bench reps. Now, when you got 32-inch arms, you only have to go here.
That's right. It makes it easier.
A 32 vertical and a 9.6 broad jump. All right. You get an explosion number where you combine the bench reps with the vertical with the broad jump. You combine those together, add them up, and if it's over 70, you've got an explosive player. What does 36 plus 32 equal? 68. Add a 9.6 broad jump, and you're up over 77 on his explosion. So there you go. Jonathan Marshall, a team captain his senior year at Arkansas, had 35 tackles in 10 games as a nose tackle, 6.5 tackles for loss, 4 quarterback pressures. All right. Again, an Arkansas team that was playing behind in every game. Barry Odom, the defensive coordinator for Arkansas, says Jonathan Marshall was the most important player on their team. Basketball player in high school, Little Shepherd, Texas, a town of 2,000. He's okay. So the competition is not going to be great. 4-year starter in basketball, 4-year starter in football, but he's got basketball in his background. So, he can dance. All right. How about the genes? His uncle, Cedric Hardman. You ever heard of Cedric Hardman?
I don't believe
You're
so.
too young Cody, to remember Cedric Hardman, but I remember Cedric Hardman back in the 70s for the San Francisco 49ers. I believe he might be a product of the University of North Texas, then North Texas State. I'll have to look that up. But he is still San Francisco's all-time sacks leader, Cedric Hardman. All right, this is his nephew. And John, a great nephew, probably. But Jonathan Marshall, you look at his tape, and I was like, whoa, he crushes. So there was one fourth and one down. It wasn't on the goal line, but it was close. 4th and 1 play where he penetrates and just clobbered some poor running back, I believe from Mississippi State, 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, this guy's got explosive ability coming off the ball. His get off. I think he'd be better in a 4-3 defense as a 3 technique coming off the ball. But I'm looking for Jonathan Marshall out of Arkansas to be a real sleeper coming out of the 6th round. He's a quiet guy, weight room guy. All right. I saw a story, an interview with his high school coach telling stories of him at Shepherd, Texas. This reminds me again of one of my favorites, Daniil Hunter, who I talked to his high school coach when he came out because I couldn't understand why isn't Daniil Hunter a first round, getting drafted in the first round. It wasn't until late 3rd round before Rick Spielman and the Vikings made the pick. And he has 50 sacks or more in his first 5 years in the league. Well, Jonathan Marshall, they'll name the weight room at Shepherd, Texas after him. All right. There's a video that his high school coach posted of him doing those flat-footed jumps onto mats or whatever. Yeah, box jumps. All right. He jumped onto a stack of 11 45-pound plates holding 30-pound dumbbells in each arm. This was 6 years ago when he was in high school. And he did it 5 times in an 18-second video. That's what kind of explosion ability that this Jonathan Marshall has.
Wow. Can I see that? Can you post that
somewhere? I'll find it and I'll post it on Twitter, CBS 11 Bill Jones.
Awesome. Well, Bill Jones, my recap of this segment here, buy stock in the Vikings and buy stock in the Jets. Those are our
That's right.
We like the Vikings and the Jets to really, to have a nice year.
Yep, that's exactly right. I think that may be why I had Minnesota as one of my top drafts, because they were picking out of the big green notebook. All right, we're past time here on Jonesing for Football, but that was a lot of fun.
Enjoyed it. We've got another segment coming up next week. We'll figure out what it is. Regardless, we know you guys are going to listen. So thank you so much for listening to Jonesing for Football. And we'll have another segment for you next week as well.
All right. We'll see you next time. Way to go, young Cody.
Boom.